Okay, hello and welcome in to the Bruins Maple Leafs series preview. Now, in this series preview, I'm going to be going over the Leafs lineup, the Bruins lineup, some stats from the season, and what I think really matters coming into this series for both teams. Because, Leafs and Bruins are the only two teams. We're going to be watching them for probably at least 4 games, maximum 7 games. So we're going to become very familiar, so this is why I'm doing the preview. I'll go over their lines right away. On the first line center, you have Austin Matthews. On the left wing, you got Zach Hyman. On the right wing, you got William Nylander. Very good line. Hyman was put with Matthews early in his career, kind of like to protect him almost. But Hyman's a serviceable winger, but he's kind of just there for the ride with Austin Matthews and Willie Nylander. Both Matthews and Nylander are great players. Matthews would be the leading goal scorer of the Leafs, but he missed around 20 games this year. He still had 34 goals, so he's a quality goal scorer. He really is going to have to put this Leafs team on his back if they want to make it through the series. William Nylander on the other side is a very good winger playmaker. Kind of similar to Pasternak in a way, where they're very creative. Very young, too. And then you go to a more conservative second line with Nazem Kadri in the center, Patrick Marleau, old veteran, and Mitch Marner. Kadri is a very good two-way player. I'm pretty sure he's the one I've heard Leafs fans been talking about for the Selke here and there. He's their Selke nominee. He's their Selke trophy. If a team gave out an individual award for defensive forward, it would probably go to Nazem Kadri on this team, I think. Even though Leo Komarov down here is a great penalty killer, they tend to give it to a more two-way player. Marleau is a decent veteran player who is still capable of putting up goals and points against you. Marner is an extremely young, talented player. I think he's 19 or something like that. He's got really good hands. He's really creative. And that's one thing to the Leafs lineup. They're very young. These two, I'm pretty sure all three of these guys, Matthews, Nylander, and Marner, who are their three most dynamic forwards, are all under legal drinking age. So these guys are going to be here for a while, too. Then you drop down to the third line where you got Bozak, solid third line center, not really much else to say. Connor Brown, decent depth player, and JVR, who is the Leafs' leading goal scorer and is on their third line. JVR had 36 goals, and he makes a lot of his money and gets a lot of his goals on the power play. He's very good in front of the net. He's one of the better net front presence in the league, and that alone is worth the $6 million he'll probably be getting in the offseason or whatever he gets. Then you go to the fourth line, which is pretty defensive with Thomas Plekanec, a former Canadian, so going to another team we don't like. And then you got Leo Komarov, who's a great penalty killer, and Kapanen, who I'm not too familiar with, but I'm pretty sure that was one of the pieces the Maple Leafs got in the Phil Kessel trade when they gave Phil Kessel to the Pittsburgh Penguins, which, it's looked pretty good for the Penguins so far. Let me go over some stats here. The leading point getter was Mitch Marner, who's on their second line. He had 69 points on the year in 82 games, so he's a little under a point per game. Then you go to Matthews, who had 63 and 62. As I mentioned, he's their best player. He missed a few games. They didn't really need him during that time, to be honest, because they've been locked into the third seed. Then you go to Willie Nylander over here. He had 61 and 82. Very good season for him. Then you go to Kadri, who had 55 points, 32 of them being goals, 33 assists. It's a pretty even stat line there, 30 goal score. I'm pretty sure they have 3 of those. Yes, they do. Who's the next guy? James Van Riemsdyk, who has 36, not 37 goals, and 18 assists. So he's a very big goal scorer. He has that Cy Young type stat line with more goals and assists. He's a pitcher stat line. Usually you have more wins than losses, but unless you're a bad pitcher. But either way. Then Patrick Marleau is the next forward with, I'm pointing at the wrong guy. Patrick Marleau. With 27 goals, which is pretty good for a 38, 39-year-old. He's up there, but solid veteran. The rest of the guys down here are more just solid depth players who are defensive. I don't really know much about Connor Brown or Kasperi Kapanen. I'm just pretty sure Kapanen has high upside of offense. Not as sure about Brown, but I know they're solid depth players. Kapanen had 9 points in 38 games, but he's been playing fourth line minutes, so what do you expect? And Connor Brown has 28 and 82 on the third line. He's a third liner. He's not going to be putting up a lot of points. But this is what's going to beat the Bruins. If they lose the series, it's because of the depth. It's the fact that they can roll 3 lines that can really kill you, and they have a fourth line which is pretty defensive and chippy. That's how the Leafs beat you, is with offense, speed, and skill. Because they're faster than the Bruins, they're more skilled than the Bruins, but I think the Bruins can take them, and I'll get to that later. All right, next thing to talk about the Leafs is their defense and their goaltending. Now, this is a very interesting topic of discussion, so I'll just go over the pairs. You got Morgan Rielly and Ron Hainsey. Morgan Rielly is a two-way defenseman who's had a good year. He's had 52 points, and I believe, 76 games. A little less productive than what Krug's been doing for us. You got Ron Hainsey, good penalty killer. I believe he was on the Penguins last year when they won the Cup. And I'm almost positive he was on the Penguins. I'm pretty sure they were talking about how many games he had played, which was like 600 or 800 games before even playing a single playoff game, which was like the record. Just a solid penalty killer, decent defenseman. Then you go down to Jake Gardiner and Zaitsev. Jake Gardiner I liked last year. I watched him in the Capitals series that the Leafs had last year, and I thought Gardiner was a pretty good player. I thought he was very good when he had the puck. Leafs fans, if there are any watching this, you can correct me, but I thought he looked pretty good, and I thought he was one of your better defensemen in that series, from what I saw at least. Then you go to Nikita Zaitsev, who's an okay defenseman. Travis Dermott, who's very inexperienced, and Roman Polak, who I don't really think is that good of a defenseman personally. So I think their bottom two is kind of weak, or at least unproven in his case. There's nothing here that screams intimidation. Now, the only thing I'd really worry about when it comes to the Leafs defense as a Bruins fan is the offensive production of Rielly and Gardiner, because Gardiner also had 52 points this year. So that's two Krug-like productive defensemen. So they can really get things going from the back end, which when they have the forwards they have, it must make life easier for your defensemen to get assists because their offense is very good. But you still need skill to get 50 points as a defenseman. So both of them are quality defensemen when it comes to scoring. But the thing I really don't think the Leafs have is a shutdown pair, an honest-to-God shutdown pair. Like the Bruins have that in McAvoy and Chara. And I really feel like Toronto's at a disadvantage in most series they be in with their top pairing. Yes, they can beat some teams in the playoff series, in my opinion. I choose them over some teams. But I choose them over Philadelphia, to give you an example of a team I choose them over. But without a shutdown pair, it's really hard to go deep in the playoffs. The Penguins last year went to the finals without Chris Letang and won the finals, but it's very rare you see a team without a very good number one defenseman. I guess Morgan Rielly, who's only 24, would have to have a show-me series and a show-me playoffs, like a coming-out party. Because from my knowledge, Morgan Rielly has not turned into the franchise defenseman that Leafs fans were hoping he'd be one day. Gardner's a solid player, but I mean, I'm not sure Zaitsev is a top four defenseman, and I'm not sure Hainsey is a top pairing defenseman. And I know Polak, on the Bruins at least, wouldn't be in their lineup, and I doubt Dermott would be either. I'm not sure Zaitsev would be either. So I really don't think this is that great of a group. Now, the thing that can really kill us is this man right here. Frederik Andersen broke the Leafs record for most wins in a season, and that is a pretty long history of a lot of bad goaltenders, to be honest. But the Leafs are a historic franchise, and to get any record like that as a goalie with a historic franchise is impressive. Andersen is feast or famine almost. Like, he's either going to really be good or he's going to be shaky. He's inconsistent. He led me to a fantasy hockey title this year, so that was pretty good. I was kind of cheering for him this year in that aspect, especially when they couldn't catch us. But Anderson's either going to shut us down or he's probably going to open the door. Yeah, I'm really curious to see what Andersen we get. Hopefully for us, it's the one that opens the door. Toronto fans are hoping he's a beast that he can be. And that's all I really have to say about the Leafs. I'll move on to the Bruins now. Okay, now we're on to the Bruins forwards, which I know is the team you guys care about more, judging by my channel. So I'm not really going to go over stats too much because we all know Bergeron, Poster both around a point per game. Marchand's way above that. The rest of them, though, a lot of them have been dealing with injuries in some aspects, so the stats don't really show it justice, or some of these guys have been through streaks and all that. Plus, I don't really need the stats to talk about the team. Because also those stats don't matter because it's the playoffs. Everything's at 0 right now. The Leafs, I use stats because it's more of a reference and it gives you an idea. Whereas you guys, if you're watching this, probably know a little about them by now. Bergeron, Pasta, Marchand. Now, personally, I think you should run this line. But if your depth is not scoring, you definitely have to consider dropping Pastrnak down in the series if the rest of the team is not scoring, because you cannot hoard all three of your best offensive players on one line if your depth is not scoring. You have to spread it out. Like Kessel's on the Penguins' third line. JVR, the leading goal scorer of the Leafs, is on the third line. So this is all fine and dandy if these guys below can score. So getting these guys, I really like the second line combo here of Krejci, Rick Nash, and DeBrusk. Because Krejci and DeBrusk are more finesse players, where Rick Nash is kind of a rough and tough player who can really go down in the corners and bump if he needs to, and he can score. Rick Nash, before he got injured, we all saw, has a lot of quality chances, but he's a very big tease. Because Rick Nash will get these quality chances and he'll hit post, or it will almost go in. And in the playoffs, we need more of those to go in. He did get his fair share of goals. I don't remember how many he had before he got injured, but it felt like he was doing a decent amount of work, in my opinion. Plus, on the power play, his big body in front of the net should be useful in the playoffs, so I like that line. Now, the line that worries me is the third line. The third line is very important. It might be one of the most important lines on the team. And that's mainly because if you have a third line that can score, you have an advantage over most of the other teams you'll play. Heinen is our fifth leading scorer, so to have him on the third line is good. Gianta, I'm not really sure what you're going to get offensively out of him. I'm going to be honest. They don't have Ryan Donato in their lineup, which leads me to believe that Brian Gianta has an extremely short leash in this series. If we're not successful early on, Gianta's probably out, and you're probably looking at Ryan Donato coming back in. Then you go to Backes, who I think you need in the lineup for the playoffs just because of the game he plays, the style he plays. If a game goes to a rough and tough style, David Backes is right there. And I believe that's good. The fourth line, I don't have much to complain about right now. I know a lot of people online, including myself, I put out a tweet like Wingles in over Donato. It sounds like a Claude Julien type of move. But Wingles on the fourth line is not an issue. Donato not being right here, or even here, or here is the issue. Gianta or Wingles, one of them is fine, as long as they're in this spot. So I'm more mad about that. But I'm not mad because I really think Donato's going to get his chance in the series. Schaller, Corrali, Wingles, that's fine. I don't know what's up with Noel Acciari or why he's not playing. Maybe it's a scratch situation. They want Wingles because of experience. But I personally would prefer Acciari there. The fourth line, though, is going to do their thing even with Wingles because Wingles is a decent fourth liner. This is a top 9 that can win, but I think it would be better with Ryan Donato. I really think you could have a Jake Gensel type of playoffs. I think it's a mistake to not have him in to at least see what he can do at first. That's all I really gotta say about the Bruins forwards. Alright, now it's time to talk about defense and goaltending for the Bruins. I switched to green marker here because I wasn't sure how the red would look, and I'm pretty sure you can make out the names or know them by heart at this point. But the first pair, you got Chara and McAvoy, then Krug and Miller, Grizzly and McQuaid. This is the exact defense I'd want out there. The only thing that I would like is for Carlo to be here and Miller to be here, but Brandon Carlo's leg is no longer available, so he is no longer available. Weird how that works. Anyway, this is the exact defense I would put out for the Bruins going into the playoffs because I wasn't a big Nick Holden guy. Anyway, let's go over the first pair. This is really what's going to determine if we win the series. Both of them were injured. Both of them came back. Both of them did not look 100% right in my opinion. But I'm thinking it was just a little rust. The legs weren't there yet. But with the 3 days they've had off now, going into Thursday night's tilt against Toronto, I think if they are fully healthy, we can win this series and we should win this series. McAvoy last year was a very good playoff performer, and Zdeno Chara on the penalty kill is 1.5 men. We never play 5-on-4 on the penalty kill with him on the ice, it feels like. Feels like we play 5-on-4.5. And I know that's a exaggeration, but you know what I mean. Chara takes up a lot of space. He can cut down a lot of lanes that a lot of defensemen can't. You think 5'9 Krug or 5'9 Grizzlies doing that, what 6'9 Chara does? No. But if this isn't our elite pair, because Chara's like a 1B guy, and McAvoy's like a 1B guy. Like, they can be number ones, but you prefer them to be that number 2 at this point in the career. McAvoy will probably get to that number 1 guy sooner rather than later. Hopefully real soon. If he can play number 1 D-man like minutes, like if he can become the Drew Doughty, I think he can. Now, we can win this series, and we should win it in 6. Moving on to the next pair, Krug and Miller. Kevin Miller's been a boss lately. He's been really just enforcing his will upon other teams going down the stretch. He needs to continue that. He needs to. Krug has been great all season. He's become more of a two-way defenseman this year. I thought his defensive game has come along nicely this year. And his offense, I believe he has a career year with points. I think he's at 59, like 15, 16 goals, something like that. Just a solid year for Krug. And then you got Grizzly and McQuaid. McQuaid brings the boom. He brings that intensity. He's not the best defenseman, but he brings the playoff attitude. Grizzly, who is just a worker, great skater, hockey IQ through the roof, very solid bottom six guy. Very solid bottom six guy. That's all I got to say. But if these two are healthy, we should win the series. Now on to the other X factor, Rask. What Tuukka Rask are we going to get? Tuukka Rask didn't look his best coming down the stretch, and I really don't think it's a Tuukka Rask thing. I think it's a scheduling thing. I think Tuukka Rask was playing a lot, even though Hudobin was playing a decent amount of starts. Rask was still in there often, and I think he was just more tired than playing bad, which I know they can go hand in hand, but I think a rested Rask will be fine come the playoff time. 2013, he had one of the best, stats-wise, goaltending we've had in the playoffs in a while. And I really think Rask will be fine. You might hear me in the review say otherwise if he proves me wrong, but I'm kind of fairly confident in Rask based on the season he's had. Anyway, but I think the big X factor in this series is Chara and McAvoy. Both of them are healthy and both playing good. The Bruins win this series. And next I'll go on to the keys of the series, which will just be some things I think we should all look out for. Okay, last but not least is the keys to the series. The first one, which I touched on a little earlier, is which Frederik Andersen shows up. Now, Frederik Andersen, I'm pretty sure he's going to have a okay to good showing, but the real thing is an inconsistent Andersen going to show up where he can shut you down or open the door for you? Now, I really think I think the Bruins will run into an okay Frederik Andersen. The question is he going to be like Pecorine in the finals last year, where some games he's good and on, and then other games he just opens the door for you? I'm really wondering how consistent he's going to be throughout the series. I really think some nights he's going to shut us down, and the Leafs will win that game. And then other games, it wouldn't shock me if he plays a little more loose and we put some goals in we normally wouldn't get. Now, really, that's going to determine the series for the Leafs in a way. There's many things that will determine it, but that's one of them. The next one is how healthy are the Bruins. Right now, we do not have a Chari for reasons, and we have Riley Nash on the 9th floor because he has a cut on his ear right here. So you can't put a helmet over it because he's got 40 stitches right here. How healthy is he going to be? And because he's a really good third-line center and really important to our success. We don't have him. Chara and McAvoy, how healthy are they? That's the most important thing to me. Can Chara and McAvoy go 7 games, play high-level hockey, and not re-aggravate their injuries? That's going to be key, because if either one of those guys goes down, it wouldn't shock me if the Leafs take this series. Now, if they both play okay and not great, we can still win the series. But the better they play, the better our chances of winning the series are. Can the Leafs defense defend? I'm not impressed by their defense. They really need to prove it to me. I hope they don't. But they really, that's their weakness right now is their defense. Because I'd say Frederik Andersen's in between their offense and defense because he's inconsistent. Whereas their defense is consistently not spectacular, but they can get it done by a committee on certain nights. Hopefully we can take advantage of their lack of star talent on defense and put some pucks in. And the last one, can the Bruins depth score? Now, they're young-ish. Well, not with the lineup we're running with Gionta and Backes on the third line, as young as we should be with Donato. But can the Bruins depth score? Because in series like this, it can sometimes be harder to score than it is during the regular season. You can put pucks in the net in the regular season. That's a lot easier than the postseason. So I'm really curious to see how some of these young players like DeBrusk and Heinen, specifically those two, and Donato when he hopefully gets in the lineup, I'm really wondering how good they can be in the playoffs because it's a different type of game. Now, if the Bruins can put in a lot of pucks on their third and second line, we can win the series. The Leafs, I'm way more confident in their depth scoring because they were in a playoff series last year and they did okay against the number 1 seed Capitals. Us, on the other hand, we're a little less proven with the depth category scoring because a lot of these guys have very little experience. But I really think if the Bruins can stay healthy, which is key, health, the Bruins should and can win this series. It's really a flip a coin series because of all the factors that are going around. But I feel like the Bruins should win this one in 7, if fully healthy, 6. And that's the Bruins preview. The Bruins Leafs series preview. I gotta include them. And I hope you'd enjoyed it. And tomorrow night, Thursday night that is, Game 1. I know you're excited. I'm excited. I'm pumped. Let's go. Let me get my rally towel out. Let's go. And the review will be coming probably late night, probably like midnight-ish. Maybe later, maybe towards 2 a.m. As for Game 2 on Saturday, a little warning, that one's not coming out Saturday night because I have plans to go into Cambridge and live it up because I'm a 19-year-old. And that review won't be coming to sometime Sunday. I can't guarantee what time, but I can guarantee Sunday. And that's all I have for you. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you next time. Peace.